Do you know that kid who asks a lot of questions? You know those questions that are so simple yet so profound, like, why is the sky blue? Why does the letter B come before the letter C? Why do we have 5 fingers on each hand instead of 7? Some of you probably were that kid. Look at your chuckling neighbor and tell them that's all right. Well, I have a confession to make. I was that kid. So much so that my grandmother thought she could solve this by buying a 5-volume book series called The Big Book of Questions. I was to consult that book before I asked her anything. Now, her tactics did work because the book did have the answers to some of my questions, but the book didn't have the answers to all of my questions. And just like that book, our current social justice movement lacks the answer to this. Why are less than 5% of lawyers black in the United States? Yes, less than 5% of lawyers are black in the United States, and we are not talking about how this is stopping us from actually achieving social justice. Law schools play a critical role in the recruitment, retention, and realization of black lawyers and black law students. And it is time that we talk about their critical role and how we can hold them accountable for producing more black lawyers so that we can actually achieve social justice. I found out that lawyers represented less than 5% that were black when I started on the journey to going to law school, graduating, and becoming a lawyer as a black female with a Ph.D. in human development and family science. Now, black lawyers represent 4.7% of lawyers in the United States. And you're probably thinking something along the lines of, I'm not quite sure if that number is low or not. You know, my African Americans represent a minority group in the United States. Now, that thought process does have some validity. However, white people make up 60% of the US population. Yet they represent 86% of lawyers in the United States. I'll do the math for you. That's a 26% overrepresentation. So what it looks like is that African Americans are underrepresented on one side of the bench that makes decisions and overrepresented on the other side of the bars that prevent them from making decisions. If we want to talk about real social justice, if we want to advocate for real social justice, we have to look at the hidden side of the social justice movement and hold law schools accountable for creating conditions and environments that produce more black lawyers so that we can actually achieve social justice. Have you ever walked into a room and you immediately realized you were the oddball out? That you looked around and there were 4 people that might have looked like you in the room? And no, not that you weren't qualified to be there, but you probably started thinking something like, this might not be the place where I belong. More black lawyers in school looks like more black people as students, as professors, and as administrators. More black lawyers out of school looks like more policies that create an equitable society, that treat people with humanity, dignity, and respect, that doesn't criminalize them for the color of their skin. More black lawyers out of school looks like culturally competent judges that seek to restore humanity. It looks like the prosecution of people in power, like police officers who decide to kill people in their own homes and cars instead of protecting them. It looks like more equitable policies and politicians that reflect their society and community that they serve. It even looks like better business deals to end underserved communities and create generational wealth. It even looks like vice presidents and more presidents that identify as black and female. With all of those ideas and possibilities of what social justice actually looks like, I was really disturbed to learn that minorities represented the largest decrease in incoming law students from 2018 to 2019. So then I started thinking some more. With that decrease in law students as well as African American lawyers, with 4.7% of what our society really looks like right now with the idea of social justice, what would happen if we continued on that trend and let's say we got to 2% of black lawyers? with that thought of what actually could be, what is, and what social justice might look like, I had to take a pause. I had to take a breath. So I'm going to ask you to breathe and exhale with me while I count to 5. 1, 2, I don't see you breathing. 3, 4, 5. When I was a kid, that's how long we would hold our breath in swim lessons. We would hold our breath, close our eyes, or keep them open if you're really feeling brave. And then we would jump all in. That's how me and my law school buddies felt when we started law school. Ready to close our eyes and embark on that underwater challenge, go to law school and actually become lawyers. And then I realized that we were still holding our breath. That this would have to be one of those really brave moments where I would have to keep my eyes open. A few weeks into the second semester, I learned that 3 out of the 7 of us Black law students had been academically dismissed. And that meant they were no longer on the forward journey to actually becoming lawyers. We realized we were holding our breath because this was a stark reality for many first-year law students. For Black students, that is. For Black students, graduating and getting to the other side to become licensed attorneys was not as common for us. Lawyers like Thurgood Marshall, who became the first African American to sit on the Supreme Court, took on specific cases like the Brown versus the Board of Education to change laws and move the social justice movement forward. So our next critical question in our big book of questions is, what are law schools doing to support the success of Black law students that they accept so that they can achieve their ultimate goal when they entered law school of graduating and becoming a licensed attorney? How are we holding law schools accountable as a society? Achieving social justice matters when we look at representation. As a Black law student, we had the wonderful opportunity of serving as a member of the executive board of the Black Law Students Association. When I was there, when we sat at the table, I served on the local and the regional boards, we asked some of those hard and critical questions. We asked some of those questions like, why do they teach us the law as if it has no color? Like the famous Supreme Court case, Terry versus Ohio, was not about permission to arrest a Black man on the street. What are law schools doing? And why have we not figured out what is happening with our fellow Black law students? Why have we not found a solution to end this pattern? It was really disheartening for me to learn that 30% of law students, incoming law students, were minority. But 44% of those law students actually represented those who did not make it to their second year of law school. Whether it be for academic reasons, financial reasons, they were no longer on their journey to becoming lawyers. So then I had to really think about it. Why are less than 5% of lawyers Black in the United States? Patterns like I just discussed, but also holding law schools accountable. If we really want to reach social justice, we have to do the things such as Thurgood Marshall, but how are we going to do those things if we don't have Black lawyers? So I thought about what we should actually do. We have to start asking those critical questions like we did as BOSA students sitting at the table. Asking those critical questions takes heart. Heart is an action framework that I developed to promote change, meaningful change, and then also to promote excellence in ourselves, in our environment, and the people around us. HEART stands for Hear, Evaluate, Assess, Redirect, and Transform. So first we have to hear. We have to open our ears so that we're hearing the stories of law students so that we can include their experiences in our curriculums. That looks like law school administrators and curriculum developers, including Black law experiences. It includes teaching the law as if you're talking about a Black man. And then we have to evaluate. We have to evaluate our systems and our structures, and it looks like disaggregating data by race. And then we have to assess. We have to assess our current measures. What is our measurement of success? And how does that fare for students of color? How are we using our resources so that we are supporting the success of Black students? And then we have to redirect. We have to redirect and reallocate those resources, services, and factors so that we are creating an equitable society for all students. And then we have to transform. We have to use all of that information when we hear, evaluate, and assess and redirect. We have to use all of that so we can transform our society, so that we can transform what it looks like around us so that it can actually be more equitable and we can actually achieve social justice. So my hope today is that you actually incorporate H.E.A.R.T. You incorporate it in your institutions, in your organizations, in your government, so that we can hold institutions like the American Bar Association accountable, the law school accrediting body for law schools, so that we can do that and that we can create a more equitable society together, and that we can have more Black lawyers, and so that we can actually achieve social justice. When you incorporate more H.E.A.R.T., you allow law students to achieve their dreams. You allow Black law students to achieve their dreams. And then you also give justice a chance to breathe. Thank you.